what we want to do is, first things first, we want to download this site and back it up. I'm going to break this down into 3 phases. Phase 1 is going to be preparing this site for transfer. Phase 2 is going to be setting up the site on the new host. And then phase 3 is going to be just some minor cleanup and making sure that everything is working right. So first things first, let's go ahead and download this site and back it up. Now, you can go into your WordPress files through FTP, but I have found that that can take a long time, and it's much quicker to log into your control panel. First thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and log into our file manager, and we're going to go right into this site, which is the dev.joshhall.co. We're going to go ahead and show hidden files just in case we want any of that. Now, here's one thing that's very important. Oh, I actually had already previously zipped this up. We're going to go ahead and delete that. But by default, this is what WordPress is going to look like if you're not already familiar. You're going to see a lot of files, a lot of PHP, and a lot of goofy stuff. The only files that we need, now you could transfer all of these files together, but in this case, I'm just going to take the only files that we need, which are the WP content, which contains all of your themes, your plugins, your actual uploads, your images, things like that. And then we're going to take the WP config file. This is basically telling the configuration of the database that's associated with WordPress. So don't worry, we're going to get into that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually compress the WP content file. Right there, the file that I just zipped up. So we're going to download this, and then we're going to take our WP config file, which we'll get into when we actually transfer this to the new host. Okay, so that's all we need to this point. Last little piece that we need to download, and that is the actual database. Now, if you're not familiar, the database in WordPress is what holds the actual pages, the posts, your users. Now, so what we're going to do to get into our database is we're going to go into PHP My Admin. Now, this is going to show us all of the databases that we have on our server. In this case, I know that my database is this one right here. If I click this, this is going to open up all of the tables. And again, you're going to see posts, you're going to see comments, and everything that's in WordPress. There's one really important area, and it's right here under options. This is going to show you the actual URL that your site is pointed to. Now, you can change this in WordPress. You can go into your settings and you can change it right here. But generally, I like to go into the database just to make sure this is lining up correctly. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click the entire database so we can see all the tables. And we are going to check all. And what we're going to do is with the selected, you can either do it right here. I tend to go up here, and we're going to export all of these tables. It's going to download an SQL file. So we're going to go ahead and click go. And this is going to download that for us. And I can see that we have 3 things. We have the database, the SQL file. We have the config file, which is telling it what database to go to. And we have our content folder. And bounce over to our new host. Okay, now I'm logged into the hosting account for my new site where we're going to put the current site. So the first things first, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and install a blank installation of WordPress here where we're going to move our current site. And click WordPress installer. We're going to go ahead and install WordPress. And I have a subdomain set up for new dev site. And again, this is where that site is going to go. So we're going to go ahead and, we don't need to worry about a SSL certificate on this one. So we want to make sure we have HTTP. We're going to call this new dev site, which is just saying this is where that site's going to go. And let's go ahead and save the username and password it gives for us. Now, you can, of course, make this your own. You could put your own username and your own password in there. In this case, I'm going to save that. Now, last thing I want to show you before we install WordPress, and this is what most people don't look at, and a lot of newer people to WordPress don't understand, is that when you install WordPress, not only does it install the PHP files and the WP content and all that, but it also sets up a database. So the database, again, is where all of your content is, your pages, your posts, your comments, users, and things like that. So I can see that this has a database name of 837, and it's got this weird table prefix, which we'll worry about later. Now, you could change this. You could change your table prefix, and you could change your database name. In this case, I'm just going to leave it so I know it's 837. Now let's go ahead and install that. Okay, and once the blank installation of WordPress is installed, and log back into our control panel, what we want to do is we want to go to PHP My Admin, and I know that that site that I just set up was what? The 837. So we're going to go ahead and click into this. is we want to check all of these, and we actually want to drop all of these, delete all of these, which in this case is called drop. So yep, we want to drop that. All right, now there's nothing in that database, but no worries. What we're going to do is import the one that we had backed up. So let's go ahead and click import. And now we're going to go down here to right here, choose the file. So we want to choose that SQL file that we had. So I'm going to go into my downloads, and here is the original SQL file that has all of our posts, pages, etc. So we're going to choose this. We're going to go down and we're going to go ahead and import this file. This is going to import all of the tables with all of the content. Now, we're going to go into the most important table, which is right here in your options. And here is where you can find the URL of your site. Now, this is where I mentioned before to where when you're in your previous site, I could go in here and I could change the URL before I move things, but I like to know how to do this just in case I need to ever get in here. So you're going to go into options, and we're going to change the URL from dev.joshhall.co to the new dev site.intransitstudios.com. Let's go ahead and save this because we need to do this again. So new dev site.intransitstudios.com. Cool. Going to go ahead and update that. Now we're going to go ahead and edit the home path as well. Now, I've noticed like with GoDaddy, these are found in different spots. SiteGround makes it real nice because you can see these together. But if you have any questions on this, go ahead and just Google, where you find these two options, but you just need to change the site URL and the home URL right there. Okay, so now that we've got that set, the next step we need to do is we need to actually move all of our files and content over. So we're going to go back into our file manager, and we're going to go right into the directory that has the new site. Okay, so now we see this basic WordPress install. What we need to do is, right now the content folder has everything that WordPress comes with automatically. We're going to actually delete this, and we're going to replace the content folder with our backed up content folder. So we're going to upload, we're going to choose the file, and we want to choose the zipped file. You can't upload a open file, like a folder like this automatically with File Manager. We're going to go ahead and import this. Now, this is going to upload, and then we'll see what we want to do next. Okay, now that this is uploaded, we're going to go ahead and go back to our File Manager. And the last thing we need to do is we need to make sure we extract this because it's not going to automatically open up that zipped folder. So, yep, we want to extract this right in the path for our new site. So we've got that extracted. We're going to close. Now what I want to do is I can just double click this or right click and download. This is going to open up the config file. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. I'm going to open this up in my text editor. So this looks really confusing if you're not used to the config file, but basically what this is saying, hey, the name of that database, which if you remember when we set up was 837. Now let me walk you through this because this is where it's important to know, and this is how you can set up a database manually. Let's go ahead and click into MySQL databases. You can see all the databases that I have on this current site, and you can see right here that here's the database that was set up a little bit ago with 837, which is where the new site's going to go. Now, automatically, when you set up a database, it gives it a user. So a user has a set password automatically when you install this. But if you do this manually, you can just set up a database, set up a user, set the password, and make sure that all privileges are assigned to that user. So that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing the name. This is the database right here. This is the new database. The user right here, 837, which is the same user. And then this is the password that's on there. Sometimes if you're moving hosts, you have to adjust the local host name, but you can just talk to support for your hosting if that messes anything up. But there's one last piece in config that's not lining up, and it's this table prefix. If you remember when we installed WordPress, it gave us a table prefix of this, but if I go back out and I look into PHPMyAdmin where I have those tables imported, let's go ahead and look in here. I can go into my database, again, 837. Look at the table prefix. It's not this WPQF. It's actually WP70. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this with WP7, or I'm sorry, O, not 0, because 0 wouldn't work. So now we can go ahead and save this. Let's go back into our file manager, and we're going to overwrite this config file with what we just updated. Now, again, you can edit this on your server, but for the sake of this tutorial, I just wanted to make sure this looked a little cleaner for you. So there we go. We've overwritten that. Now let's go back. Okay, so now we've got the WordPress files in there. We've got the content from the new site. We've updated the config file, and we've put all of our database tables in here under PHPMyAdmin. So fingers crossed, guys, when I go back out to the site and refresh at newsite.enchanted studios, we should see the new site. And boom, there we go. Now, there's one last step, and this is the cleanup section here. And actually, this is kind of the end of phase 2. When I go into my site here, let's go ahead and log in. Now, when you log into the new site, it's going to be with your original login that you had, not the login that was set up. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with my original login here. We're going to log in. And here we go. Now, there's one last thing that we need to do because, take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and open a new window here. If I look at this image, I can see, if I inspect element, I can see that this image is still pulling from the dev.joshhall.co address. What we need to do is we need to refine and replace all of the images, the links, file structure, or file images and everything. So you can do this manually, but I use a really handy plugin called Velvet Blues. So let's go ahead and once that's activated and uploaded, we're going to go ahead and use that. Okay, so I'm in my plugins and I see right here Velvet Blues update URLs is active, and you're going to find this under Tools, Update URLs. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our old domain in. So here's my old site. I'm going to drop that in there, and let's go ahead and drop in the URL for the new site. And you do want to be specific if you have a SSL certificate on these, but in this case we don't. I think you can leave the backslash there, but in this case we're just going to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and check everything because we want all of these URLs to change. So we're going to click update URLs, and you can see right there it changed. Now with a big site, generally you're going to see multiple pages and items and things change, but it changed to content items. So now when I go back to my front page, I'm going to right click this image and it should be pulling from, there we go, new devsite.enchanted studios as opposed to the old site. So that's it, guys. That's how you migrate a site and how you get everything ready to be set up on your new host.